Recording going. Okay, very good. All right, welcome everybody to the Village of Woodbury Village Board meeting for March 8th, 2021. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence for those friends and family lost to COVID. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Okay, to start this evening, before we get into the regular agenda, we have 3 public hearings. First up is Orange County Community Development Grant Program for fiscal year 2022. This is a public hearing to entertain suggestions on projects to be applied for grant funding through the Orange County Community Development Grant Program for their fiscal year 2022. The public notice was printed in the Times Herald Record on March 2nd, 2021. Does anyone in the public have any comment on this public hearing? Okay, with no suggestions received, then can I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Gomez with the motion.
One second.
Trustee Burek with the second. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Thank you. A transcript of this hearing will be forwarded. Well, I don't need to read that because I have any suggestions. Never mind. Second public hearing this evening is for introductory local law 3 of 2021 property maintenance. There's a continuation of a public hearing from the February 25th meeting. Amendments to the law have been made based on discussions held at that meeting. Does anyone in the public have any additional comment on this introductory local law? Okay, very good. With no further comments on this local law received, can I please have a motion and a second to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Trustee Giacomazzo. Trustee Graziano with the second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So now can I have a motion and a second to adopt local law 5 of 2021, which amends chapter 240 of the Village Code entitled Property Maintenance as distributed to the board?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Graziano with the motion, Trustee Burek with the second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Des, roll call, please.
Mayor Egan.
Aye.
Trustee Burke.
Aye.
Trustee Giacomazzo.
All in favor?
Sorry.
Somebody, is there a problem there?
No.
Yes,
Sorry.
Facebook on with the volume.
No, it was something in the other room. Trustee Gomez.
Aye.
Trustee Graziano.
Aye.
Thank you.
Yes. So third up and final public hearing this evening is to entertain public comment on introductory local law 4 of 2021, which would amend chapter 36 of the Village Code entitled Environmental Conservation Commission. This public notice was printed in the Times Herald Record on March 2nd, 2021. Anyone in the public have anything they'd like to say? Okay. With no comments received, then can I have a motion and a second to close this public hearing?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Burek with the motion, Trustee Giacomazzo with the second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Very good. Can I now have a motion and a second to adopt local law 6 of 2021, which amends chapter 240 of the Village Code entitled Property Maintenance as distributed to the board?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Giacomazzo with the motion, Trustee Gomez with the second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I
Aye.
vote aye. Desiree, roll call, please.
Mayor Egan.
Aye.
Trustee Burke.
Aye.
Trustee Giacomazzo.
Aye.
Trustee Gomez.
Aye.
Trustee Graziano.
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you. Now we move on to public comment on agenda items only. So does anyone in the public have any comment on any agenda item before we move into the administrative business? Okay, we move on. Acceptance of minutes. Looking for a motion and a second to accept receipt of the minutes of the meeting held on February 25th, 2021.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Graziano for the motion, trustee Gomez with the second. Any discussion?
Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next up is the abstract. Need a motion and a second to approve abstract 19 containing vouchers 201529 through 20151619 totaling $269,863.21.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Giacomazzo with the motion, trustee Graziano with the second. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Next up, fire department requests. Looking for a motion and a second to approve fire department equipment request 2021-08 totaling approximately $3,924 for the purchase of a forcible entry training station and parts, and request 2021-09 totaling approximately $6,366.94 for the purchase of cleaning supplies, medical gloves, and department sweatshirts and patches. Trustee Gomez with the motion. Trustee Burek with the second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Okay, next up, I need a motion and a second to resolve pursuant to the provisions of Section 6C of the General Municipal Law of the State of New York that the clerk of the village be and hereby is authorized and directed to expend from the Building Reserve Capital Reserve Fund of the Village of Woodbury the amount not to exceed $50,000 for the purpose of repairs to the highway salt shed. This resolution shall be subject to a permissive referendum as permitted by law.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Giacomazzo.
I'll
with the
second.
motion, trustee Burek with the second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Thank you. Next up, CHIPS modification, Highway CHIPS Fund modification. Need a motion and a second to approve a modification to the budget of the Highway Fund by increasing A 5110.400 permanent improvement highway CHIPS by $107,685 and decreasing A 5110.465 HD blacktop by $107,685. This modification is necessary to recognize the spending of the CHIPS revenue the village received from New York State.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Graziano, I saw trustee Gomez's hand up with the second. Any discussion? All in favor? And I
Aye.
vote
Aye.
okay, that's administrative business. There is no old business this evening. So now we move on to new business. First up, we need to schedule the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget work session. We're looking at March 16th. Last year, if you recall, that was a 5-hour work session. So I'd like to start no later than 6 p.m., maybe even a little earlier if people can manage that, but it's really up to you guys. What would you like to do?
Oh, what day is the 16th?
Tuesday.
Sorry.
Tuesday. I may not make it. You can start without me. Tuesdays are my late meeting nights. Sorry.
How late?
My last meeting isn't until 5:30, so by the time I get home, 6 might be pushing it.
All right, so then,
Just recommending the 16th because you have interviews on the 15th and then the 17th is St. Patrick's Day. I don't drink, so if you guys want to do it on Wednesday, the 17th.
I have a conflict. Not
Oh,
a
okay.
conflict. Actually, I do not. Next week, that's next week.
Next week,
I
yeah.
do not have a conflict. I apologize.
So I was just recommending the 16th, but it's, it's up to you guys.
I leave
About
it
the
to the
18th.
board.
I'm not on the 18th.
We could do 6 o'clock on the 16th and then excuse me, and Chris can join as soon as he's able. I mean, it sounds like he'd be able to join a few minutes, after we get started, and it's going to be a long meeting, so he won't miss one.
Yeah, I can also join at like 6:15.
Oh, all right. Well, then if we're going to do it on the 16th, we probably, now it's 2 people.
Can we start at 6:30 maybe?
That's what I was just
Yeah.
going to say.
At
Thank you.
7
Yeah.
o'clock? Yeah.
All right,
I'll
you guys
do-
good with that?
Which one are we?
So- Okay, so then I'm looking for a motion and a second to schedule a budget work session meeting to be held virtually on March 16th, 2021, starting at 6:30 p.m.
Make the
6:30.
motion.
Okay, trustee Burek with the motion, trustee Giacomazzo with the second. Any further discussion on this issue?
Good.
Okay, very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Okay, next up, we need to schedule a public hearing for the fiscal year 2021-2022 preliminary budget. Looking for a motion and a second to schedule a public hearing to be held at 7:30 p.m. on April 8th, 2021, to entertain public comment on the fiscal year 2021-2022 preliminary budget.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee
Second it.
Graziano, and we have trustee Gomez with the second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Very good. Next up is a renewal of a service agreement. Looking for a motion and a second to authorize the mayor to sign a one-year renewal agreement with Millennium Strategies for grant writing services at a cost of $3,000 per month.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Burek with the motion, trustee Graziano with the, trustee Jacomaza with the second.
All those Gs.
Those Gs always confuse me. Any discussion? I would just like to say I'm very pleased to be voting on this motion. We've done very well with this grant writer, and I'm expecting good things moving forward. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I vote aye.
Enthusiastically, aye.
I'm sorry? Oh, enthusiastically. aye. Make a note of that, Desiree. So next up is, and this is what we have guests for this evening, we have a modification of Turner Road geometry, Courtyard by Marriott. So a request was received from Steve Esposito, engineer representing Courtyard by Marriott at Turner Road, to appear before the village board to discuss preliminary site plans for his client. At the February 3rd, 2021 planning board meeting, he was directed to discuss the current plans with the village board. The plans have been developed in conjunction with New York State Department of Transportation and the village's traffic consultant with regard to site access, Turner Road right-of-way, and New York State Route 32 right-of-way. The plans call for modification of Turner Road geometry and right-of-way, which is under the jurisdiction of us, the village board. No escrow has been posted yet pursuant to the taxpayers protection law, so if the board wants to involve consultants, that'll need to be in place prior to moving any further after this discussion this evening. So I will now turn it over to Mr. Esposito and Mr. Holt.
Good evening, Steve Esposito. And just to give you a little background, our client, Rainbow Hotel Group, is contract purchaser to purchase 3 parcels totaling 3.2 acres, on which fronts on a portion of Turner Road and the east side of Route 32. The lots, and this is really not uncommon, when you look at the deeds actually go out to, on 2 of the lots, go out to the center lines of the road or beyond the center line of the road. And often, when you appear before a planning board, the planning board would ask that applicant, gratuitously dedicate, a strip of land that would allow for the continuance of a right-of-way for the municipality. You're all familiar with Turner Road and the existing geometry of Turner Road and sort of the paved area of Route 32 there. It's a little bit odd. So like Tim said, we've been working, we made application in December 2019. Since then, we've been working with the planning board, your consultants, your traffic consultant, your consulting engineers, as well as the DOT. There's also another project that abuts us, which is also another hotel, which has made application to the planning board. We have also been working with them in terms of coordinating information. We just had a week or so ago another Zoom meeting with the DOT, our adjoining applicant and our team, as well as the municipal, your consultants. So we've come up with a plan. Okay, great, thanks, Tim. And I'm going to let Carlito Holt. He's our traffic consultant. He's principal at Provident Design Engineering, and I'll let Carlito take it from here.
Thanks, Steve. Good evening, everyone. Carlito Holt, Provident Design Engineering. What you're looking at here to the left of the plan is Route 32 running in a northerly southerly direction. And then right here is the intersection of Turner Road that then continues on down past the proposed site. As Steve mentioned, there's 3 tax parcels, 1, 2, 3 parcels that make up the entire site. And what you're looking at with the blue line on the plan is the existing property line that, as Steve alluded to, runs out into Route 32 as well as out into Turner Road. We did a traffic study that was submitted to the village and the DOT. And in our traffic study, we presented two access alternatives. One access alternative included full movement access to Route 32 with a left turn lane to be provided at the intersection of Turner Road for traffic traveling southbound on Route 32. And then there would be emergency alternative access out to Turner Road. The other access alternative considered right in, right out access to Route 32 with full movement access to Turner Road, but did not include the left turn lane on southbound Route 32 at Turner Road. DOT came back and said, we like a hybrid of your alternatives where we want to see right in, right out on Route 32, full movement out to Turner, but also provide the southbound left turn lane along Route 32. And part of the southbound left turn lane improvements at Turner Road also include teeing up and realigning the intersection. Right now, it's kind of just a wide open swath of pavement in that area, and it's very uncontrolled. So this will channelize the traffic and bring it in at its more conventional 90-degree, align it opposite the motel driveway on the opposite side of Route 32. So we are in the process of putting together the design drawings for those improvements out along the DOT right of way, and should be submitting those to the DOT hopefully later this month or early next month. But as part of that, obviously there would be right of way dedication by the applicant to both the DOT and the village to essentially true up what the right of way should be along this corridor. And the one caveat is that, conventionally, when you do a right of way, if you see in the northeasterly corner of Route 32 and Turner Road, you would typically bring that and offset it off of the curb line for about 10 feet, and that allows for things like signage and other maintenance that the municipality or the DOT may need to do. And if that was to be the case, there would be essentially a swap of land between the village and the applicant would control a little bit more of the corner at that intersection, which is now being more reconfigured to not have that wide open swath of pavement. And the thought there is it could be a benefit to the village. It's less for them to own and maintain. The applicant can can perform any beautification that would need to be occurring at that corner and maintain the landscaping, et cetera. But in reality, I think the applicant's somewhat indifferent as to whether that swap occurs or not. It's just, that's kind of the way that the right of way is typically laid out conventionally. So that's why it's shown as such on this plan. But ultimately, if the village found to be in favor of this plan, what you see in red would become the new right of way line along that portion of Route 32 and Turner Road.
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
So this is the same project where you're coordinating with the other new project across the street where you'd have facing access to Route 32, correct?
Correct. If you look immediately across Route 32 from the right in, right out driveway is the Dugout Restaurant, and there's an application that was recently submitted to the village where there would be a new driveway that would align directly opposite the right in, right out. Right now, the Dugout has about 170-foot wide open curb return along that stretch of 32. So there's an opportunity with that application and this one to really control access along that portion of Route 32.
And that access would be more to the southern end of the Dugout property, is that correct?
It would come in right opposite the right in, right out. So it'd be coming a little further north, Mr. Mayor. Yep, right there.
And final question from me, you're coordinating with the adjacent hotel project as well for that shared access, correct?
Yeah, and not to speak too much on their application, but
But
there
I would
was
ask
a meeting recently with the DOT. And, the DOT recognizes that, the applicant kind of has to stand on its own because you never know if one application is going to be realized or not. But what we're proposing here at Turner Road with the left turn lane, this would be, entirely part of this application. That application, as you may be aware, is proposing a new connection roadway opposite Oakland Avenue. And there's talk of, in the future, if both applications were to be realized and that Oakland Avenue connection along 32 was to be made, that could be a potential location for future signalization, because there is acknowledgement that there's some delays for access along the east side of Route 32, trying to make a left to go south on 32. And that was the case. Our application, the Marriott, could use that access as well to make left turns under the protection of a traffic signal by making a left out of their driveway on Turner Road and continuing down to the new connector road. So I think what we found in DOT seemed to be amenable to in our most recent meeting is that you kind of have two applications that are going to be making improvements along Route 32. But both improvements could be generally mutually exclusive of each other, but neither project or improvement would disallow synergy between the two applications in the future.
Okay, thank you. Steve, do you have anything to add?
No, I think Carlito really summed it up pretty well.
Okay, very good. Do any of the board members have any questions or comments before we?
Just a point of clarity, how does the property line for the existing property wind up in the middle of a state road?
Because these, when lots are created, not uncommon when lots are created, they used to go to the center line of the traveled way. And if the whoever regulated that traveled way, if they didn't go through and actually, take land, then those deeds go to the middle of the traveled way. So the piece, like the triangular piece to, between the red and the blue, this particular deed almost goes completely across Route 32. The state has never come and taken that land. So it still exists in the tax parcel. So again, like I said earlier, not uncommon when we present plans to planning boards, you take the municipalities and regulatory agencies take that opportunity to clean these things up. So,
Chris, a
and that's
lot of
really
times the roads are done by, not specifically by transfer, but basically by use. And
Right.
so it becomes a municipal road and then the deeds just haven't been cleaned up. That's how, when they actually do the survey, they show that it's out to the middle of the road, regardless of the fact that a portion of that essentially belongs to the state just by use, but it hasn't been cleaned up with the county clerk's office.
And that's kind of what my question was, is how do we sure that this could even be done if the state hasn't already claimed it? That we can't be getting into any sort of an agreement if it's not theirs to convey.
You're talking about the little part on the red
Yes,
part?
yes.
The state would have to be brought in for those discussions. And I know that there had been some meetings with the state. I don't know how those went. Phil Greeley was there as the traffic consultant for the planning board, but the state would definitely have to be brought in my dealings with the state on other areas where they're trying to clean up things like this. They're usually on board with cleaning it up, but would prefer, the municipality or the applicant really take on the heavy lifting. So they just have the final review and approval of whatever documents it is.
So we've had these conversations with the DOT. Everybody recognizes this is a thing that's got to get cleaned up. There's a process involved in doing that. We're doing an extremely detailed survey right now along the right of way of Route 32 to produce the documents that we'll need to convey the land to the state of New York. It's a process, and like everything with the state of New York takes a little time, but where we're moving forward to produce the maps and descriptions and other documents necessary.
All right, so that leads to my next question. If this is gonna be something that you need to do with the state of New York, what is the ask from the village?
So the ask from the village is the planning board doesn't have jurisdiction over right of ways and lands that's administered by your board. This plan suggests, at the recommendation of your traffic consultant and the DOT, that we clean up Turner Road now. We have an opportunity to have somebody to do it. All right, somebody to pay the bill. And we align it with the existing hotel across the street, and that we come in at a reasonably designed intersection, right angle to Route 32.
All right, my last question before somebody else wants to get in there, one more is, has anybody gotten any comments or written comments on this plan from the Woodbury Police Department?
Well, we've had ESO meetings on this and actually with both applicants, Avalon, that's the one that's to the south of us. So there's been conversations with your ESOs, on these plans.
All right, well, is there any comments from them? Are they in agreement with this? Do they like the way it's gonna come out? Do they not like it? Is there any?
Well, we're proceeding with this plan because we got positive reaction from the ESOs, from your consultant, and from the DOT.
I have no further questions right now. Thank you.
Anyone else on the board?
Can I ask a question?
Okay.
So Carlito, you mentioned that there was talk, I know this is not your application, but I don't see how we can look at these independently of one another because of the traffic that we currently have without these projects. You mentioned that there's going to be a potential traffic light at Oakland Avenue, Oakland, whatever that intersection is. With this project, with Courtyard, was there any talk with all of this work being done of putting a traffic signal with, you're talking about the applicant at the dugout being right across the street from this. I don't know if any of you live in Woodbury, but at rush hour, that is a nightmarish intersection.
Mhm.
Even with an upgraded intersection, teeing it off and making it nice and pretty, I'm not sure how this is okay without a traffic light. Am I the only one who's concerned about that?
I am too, but I'm also worried because it kind of comes over the hill there.
It's a bad area.
Yeah,
It's
just
just, it's a
bad
lot
area.
going on. That's my first comment. My second comment is Turner Road is also houses residential properties, which I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, are not all being sold to the project, to both projects. How would that play in? Would we have to get feedback? I guess this is a Kelly question. I know it's our jurisdiction, but would we have to, is it right to just make all these changes to someone's street? I mean,
Kelly, respond.
Well, there are certain, depending on what the final way you're proposing to do it is, whether it's this or a different way, it would potentially require a public hearing.
okay.
Potentially, though, it's not definite because I really can't tell you unless we have a definitive.
A plan, right?
Yeah.
I get it.
Well, if I could just, both plans are being reviewed, by your planning board and consultants.
Mhm.
Each one of the applicants will definitely have a public hearing. They'll be required to for site plan purposes. So there'll be opportunities for the public to weigh in on whatever the ultimate design is. And we would be presenting ours, and Avalon, the adjoiner, would be presenting theirs. But there is coordination, like I said, for well over a year now between the two applicants and the department and your consultants.
And if and when we get to the stage of a public hearing by the village board for our piece of it, which is the right of way, under the Taxpayer Protection Act, that'd have to be escrow and so on, and there would be a formal application process. Correct, Kelly? Okay. She's nodding her head, yes. Let the record reflect.
I keep forgetting I'm on mute and then remembering, and I don't want to be the first person that somebody says tonight,
You're on
Kelly,
mute.
you're on mute. So just trying
Well,
to nod
it has
along.
to happen at least once a meeting, so.
It does, it does. I don't want it to be me.
All right. Other board member, or I'm sorry, Terry, you have any other questions?
No,
Other board members? Jesus, Andrew, or?
How does this affect the emergency? Isn't that an emergency road there, Turner Road, for the Woodbury Commons? So how is this, these adaptions, so to speak, affect any of that?
So generally emergency vehicles will be arriving from the north on 32. So, and this was reviewed with ESO, but I think it provides a benefit because now they'll have a dedicated turn lane to turn down onto Turner, and everything's being designed to accommodate their largest size emergency vehicle. We put a turning template on the plan to make sure that it can make all maneuvers the curb returns.
But the emergency gate to the back of the common wouldn't be affected. I think that's the question.
Well,
Yeah,
once you get past the, where the right of way line jogs out the most into Turner, Turner Road remains the same. It's really just immediately at the intersection that the modifications are being made.
okay. Okay.
Mm,
Any final comments from the board?
That's
You
it.
good?
I'm good.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Kelly, any comments, thoughts?
No, I mean, I think it was pretty much discussed thoroughly. I think it would be good to have your own traffic consultant weigh in on it with the board. He is not here tonight, but he could also fill you in and bring you up to speed with any concerns that he may have had. I know there had been some potential concerns with the location of the light being at Oakland rather than at the end of this Turner Road and across from the new project. With the thought along the lines of what Tara was saying, that people may try and skirt that Oakland light, go circle up around. But really the location of the light is something that's the state's call. Certainly they'd listen to any concerns that you may have, but in the end, it's their call. So at this point, I don't have anything further, but I know that it was requested that they come to you because it was proceeding down a path that did not involve the Board of Trustees at the outset. So the board, I mean, they could proceed down a path and at the end you say, no, it's kind of a waste of their time and money, et cetera. So we wanted to make sure that the board was brought in at an early stage before things went too far to get your thoughts. So that's all I had for tonight.
All right, very good. Well, thank you, Steve and Carlito. We appreciate
Thank-
the presentation this evening.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, and we'll look forward to continually having these conversations with the Board of Trustees. We do want to advance the project, so look forward to seeing you again. Thanks.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, moving on with the agenda. So we have a tax exemption request. A request has been received from Daniel Hubble, attorney representing the Village of Curious Joel, requesting that the village board consider an application for exemption from taxation on certain properties used for water supply purposes that are owned by the Village of Curious Joel and the Village of Woodbury. This request was received in previous years as well, and this was last discussed at the May 20th, 2020 meeting. And the board denied the request, citing the reason for this denial is that the village board could have acquired property, the Village of Curious Joel could have acquired property within its own village through negotiation or eminent domain to locate their water supply facilities, but chose instead to allow such lands to be developed for residential and commercial purposes to the benefit of the Curious Joel tax base. So we have this request for tax exemption. How would the village board like to proceed? So have a discussion if anybody has any comments.
I say we stay with the May 20th.
Okay, anybody else?
I'm in favor of denying it. So if we can move on to a vote, that would be great.
That would be fine.
Yep.
by me. Okay, I'm just looking for comment from the board before we move on to the vote. I understand. So now I'm looking for a motion in a second to deny the request received from the Village of Curious Joel to exempt certain properties that they own in Woodbury. Noting the reason for this denial is that the Village of Curious Joel could have acquired property within its own village through negotiation or eminent domain to locate their water supply facilities, but chose instead again, to allow such lands to be developed for residential and commercial purposes to the benefit of the Curious Joel tax base.
Make that motion.
Trustee Graziano
I'll
with the
second.
motion, trustee Burek with the second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Vote aye.
Aye.
Okay, next up is an agreement we have been voting on every 5 years. So I'm looking for a motion and a second to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with the Joint Monroe Fire District for the Village Fire Department to furnish fire protection on a portion of the New York State Thruway between milepost 44.38 and milepost 44.76, as amended by Attorney Norton. This agreement is for the term January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2025.
I'll make
I'll
that.
make that motion.
Second.
Trustee Giacomazzo with the motion, trustee Gomez with the second. Any discussion or questions on this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Vote aye. Okay, next up was a review and approval for Shops at Woodbury Developers Agreement. This item is being tabled until the next meeting. Next up is to advertise for bids for the Andrew Park Water System repairs, upgrades, and enhancements. Looking for a motion and a second to authorize the receipt of bids for the capital improvement project, Andrew Park Water System Filter Replacement, Treatment Plant Upgrades, and Water Supply Enhancement.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Graziano with the motion, trustee Burek with the second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I vote aye.
Aye.
Okay, very good. That concludes regular this evening, so we can move on to public comment. There have been a few people that have joined since we started the meeting. So I'm just going to go down and ask individually if anybody would like to comment. So let's start with Aaron G. I assume it's Mr. Goldklang.
No, I'm good.
Thank you. Mr. Calori?
I'm good for the time being. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Dominic, any further comments, questions?
Nothing at this time. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Martha Lopez
No, thank you.
and Ray Hernandez.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ray. Okay, so now we move on to board member, but did I miss anybody in the public that has any comment before we move on to board member and department head comment? Okay, very good. Just have a few comments this evening. I want to start by thanking Boy Scouts Woodbury Troop number 4 for having me as their guest on March 2nd. They were working on their Citizen in the Community Merit Badge and asked me to visit with them to discuss the workings of local government. I started by giving them an overview of how local government works here in Woodbury, and then spent pretty much an hour answering well-crafted questions from the Boy Scouts. Their questions were intelligent, detailed, and well thought out, and I really enjoyed my time discussing local government with them. That was a lot of fun. Your village board continues to be very busy putting together committees to better the community. We're currently interviewing members for the revitalization committee and should have members appointed soon. We've also set up second interviews with final candidates for the fire department recruitment position, so that's moving along nicely as well. This person will work toward improving recruitment in the Woodbury Fire Department to add to our great group of men and women volunteering to serve our community. We hope to have a final selection by the next meeting. As we leave winter behind us, multiple projects, as you heard this evening, will be starting up again here in Woodbury. Hotel projects and other new businesses will begin soon. So just keep an eye out for these projects as the weather improves. One of these projects will be a new transfer station by Orange and Rockland. They're going to be adding a station to Woodbury to improve service to our community and the surrounding areas. Their goal is to improve reliability and decrease time to service in the event of outages. So with the winter and the past year or so that we've had, I think that'll be welcome to everybody. Okay, that's what I have. So why don't we go down the rest of the board? Trustee Graziano?
Hi, good evening. Thank you, everybody, for attending. First off tonight, I would like to thank our county executive, Steve Newhouse, for setting the gold standard for communication and service throughout this pandemic. I think Steve has done an absolutely amazing job of keeping everybody informed on a daily basis and continuing to advocate for Orange County to receive more vaccines. I'd also like to thank both Colin Schmidt and James Skoufis for both fighting to increase vaccine distribution in our area as well. It only proves that by working together towards a common goal, things can and will get done. You know, as the weather's been warming up and I've been driving around lately, I've seen a lot of children outside, and it brings a lot of joy to my heart to see them wave and then smile from ear to ear when I wave back. This simple exchange got me thinking of how much better a place the world would be if we lived it through the eyes of a child. Just a simple hello, a tip of the hat, or a gentle smile or the wave of the hand can make such a positive difference in the world. Children are born with minds that are like a blank canvas. The picture that's painted is up to us. Their experiences make the adults of the future, and we need to make those experiences positive ones. Acceptance, tolerance, and empathy are traits not yet lost, but fast fading from our vocabulary in the world at the moment. Hate and intolerance are learned behaviors, not instinctual ones. If we want a world full of love instead of hate, then we need to start with ourselves and simple human decency. So the next time you drive or walk past a family, say hello, smile, and teach acceptance to leaders of our future. Show them that no matter what our physical differences are on the outside, we are all human beings on the inside. If we all want to change the world for the better, let's give our children the tools to do so in the future. Good night, be well, and stay healthy, Woodbury.
Thank you, Chris. Trustee Gomez.
Oh,
Yeah, Trustee Gomez.
You're up.
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear. All right, thank you. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I want to say thanks to all the new vaccines that are out now, and many have had the opportunity to get vaccinated, but there are a lot more who have not yet, either because they haven't gotten appointments or because they choose not to get vaccinated as of yet. They want others to be guinea pigs for them, and I was one of them. Let's be mindful of others and continue to wear a mask when appropriate, and until we finally get the chance from the clearance from the CDC and the health professionals, so that sometime soon we can get back to normal. A lot of the restrictions have been lifted or modified because the numbers have continued to improve and go down. So it seems like there is light at the end of the tunnel. Please stay safe and healthy, and God bless all. Have a good night.
Thank you, Jesus. Trustee Burek.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for watching tonight. It was a year ago this week. We had just concluded our marathon budget meetings with the village's department heads, and then COVID hit and everything changed. What started as a 2-week lockdown has now morphed into a complete upheaval of our everyday lives. Little did we know, nothing would ever be the same again, at least not for a very long time. At the time, I was newly elected as a first-time village trustee and had no idea what to expect in a normal world, let alone a COVID world. I will tell you that seeing firsthand how resilient our departments are is amazing. They got creative and found new and safer ways to continue to work, delivering consistent and reliable services to our residents. It's crazy to think that a year has already passed, and we have just completed this year's fiscal year's budget meetings, and we're ready for our, as Tim called it, our marathon meeting next week. We met with our department heads over the last 2 weeks, and I just want to thank everyone involved in the process. Every single person spends an enormous amount of time preparing and comes to the table with plans for today as well as for the future. Each of our department heads is always looking for ways to improve and expand upon the services we offer our residents, and how that will all be incorporated and translated into the current year's budget cycle. I will also like to sincerely thank Desiree, our village clerk, for her hard work in this process. She makes something that can be absolutely grueling as simplistic as possible for everyone, and works hard at incorporating many moving parts. It's definitely not an easy task, and it is often thankless. So thank you, Desiree, for your efforts in making this experience seamless. Thank you, everyone. Be well and stay safe.
Thank you, Tara. Trustee Giacomazzo.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for attending. March 7th is an important day in the canon of Giacomazzo. For 29 years ago, on March 7th, the former Mrs. Shannon Kenny said, "I do," to one Andrew Giacomazzo. Our story begins in a little apartment complex in Woodside, Queens, called the Boulevard Gardens, where I lived across the hall from Shannon's grandma, Rita. Shannon would eventually move into the same housing development upon her parents' divorce. We officially became a couple when we both attended the State University College of Oneonta together. It was in Oneonta that Shannon fell hard for all that is Andrew Giacomazzo. Whether it was my stunning good looks, my charming ways, or inspiring intelligence, my 24-inch pythons, my quick wit, or the merriment I bring to all, like a circus clown on steroids. How could she not fall madly in love with moi? 29 years, through good times and bad, through 4 kids, 6 cats, and most importantly, 5 dogs. And I say, quite honestly, if I had any idea how great it was to be a dog dad, I would have had more of them than less kids. Tell me the last time your husky needed money transferred to their account, or decided to borrow your car for a day trip to Rochester, or your beagle borrowed money from your wallet, though that could have been my wife, by the way. The fact is, it has been a glorious ride to date with the lovely Mrs. Giacomazzo. I am looking forward to what the next 29 years in our lives will bring. I bring this all up, not just because our anniversary was this past Saturday, but more importantly, Women's History Month. Women's History Month is about acknowledging the contributions made by women in our society, their influence on our history, and how they will continue to contribute moving forward. We have women who have made amazing contributions in science and medicine, in the arts and whatnot. And then you have women like Shannon, whose contributions are far different. Shannon attended the State University of St. John's University, graduated with a 3.8 grade point average while working almost full time in the city and raising our 2 youngest boys. And of course, dealing with me. Women like her, they don't get enough credit for all that they do on a daily basis. But it is today that I give her all the credit for the man that I am today, the men my boys will be, the loving home we have, and the influence, thankfully, she has bestowed upon my daughter, who is an absolutely amazing human being on her own, in her own part. To Shannon and all the women that just do, I thank you. And that's all I got for tonight.
Very nice, Andrew. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. Thank
Give
you.
that woman a prize.
Yes.
And a prayer,
Yes.
It
maybe
wasn't,
a short film.
Okay, let's go out to department heads. Let's start with Desiree.
I want to thank Tara for her kind words. That was very sweet of her. Usually Jesus makes us cry, but Andrew, you made us laugh. Sorry. 24-foot python, huh? Wow, lucky Shannon. And I just want to say happy Pi Day to everybody on Sunday, 3/14 Pi Day. That's it.
Hi, have fun. Math, you like math. I should know that. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Desiree.
Thank you.
Rob, you have anything?
He's a 24, baby.
I don't, thank you.
All right, Nikki. Excuse me.
I don't, Tim, thank you.
Chief Brazillo.
Nothing major. This Monday coming, we are starting back up with drills. We're going to be breaking our membership up into 2 groups and have half group show up on the even Mondays of the month and the other half on the odds, and limit the size of the drills. But it'll be our first drill, in-person drill, basically since I want to say April or May, steady. So we're going to be starting that this upcoming Monday. Other than that, nothing else.
All right, congrats on that and be careful. Stay safe and healthy. Thank you. Chief Burke.
Nope, I'm good. That's it at all.
Okay, I don't think I missed any department heads. Kelly, you have anything? Okay.
No, usually we thank Rob, so I think I heard a thank you to Desiree tonight. So Desiree, thank you. And Andrew, thank you. That was very comical.
Did you ask Mickey? I see Mickey's here. I might have missed.
Yes, Mickey. And
Okay,
it's-
sorry.
Okay, well, with no further comments or business to discuss, can I have a motion in a second to adjourn?
Make the motion.
Trustee Burek with the motion. I saw Trustee Giacomazzo's hand kind of go up.
I was willing to stay for a few hours longer.
Sure.
Oh, we'll see what we can do for you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
How about I? Thank everybody for a good meeting. Have a nice
Thank you.
evening.
Good night.